My name is LIndemann. I graduated from St. Paul Ramsey in 1981. It's now called Regions, and I became a board-certified OBGYN. Sandy came to see me, I think, in the fall of '97.
Yep. Yes, that's when it was.
Yep. Can you tell me what led up to your visit?
Well, we had started fertility work at Merit Care, and we'd been unable to get pregnant for
Conceive.
for 4 years. It had been a while, so we were having fertility treatment there at Merit Care, and on the last round of fertility work, it actually worked. We had gone through the insemination process, and they actually were going to stop the process that month because I had 8 eggs that were ready that day, and there was 8 more that were going to mature within the next 24 hours, and so they wanted to stop it, and that wasn't going to work for us because we were done. That was our last month of medication. Kind of tapped out the resources, so we signed the waiver that we wouldn't sue them for a high order multiple. So we went ahead with insemination, and lo and behold, 3-4 weeks later, we got the call that it was positive, went in for the internal ultrasound, and they immediately found 2, and we were thrilled because everybody who does fertility work wants twins, and then they found a 3rd one, and I remember laying there going like, yay. And then they said, hold on, we've got to go to the other side of the uterus, and I went like, oh. Got to the other side of the uterus and found a 4th one, and a little bit of panic set in at that point, and I remember looking at the technician, and I said, you can't find any more. There can't be any more. And fortunately there were not. There was only 4 from the beginning. And so we finished the ultrasound, went into the physician's office, and he said, well, now we've got a problem. We've got 4. And at that point, the discussion then turned to a selective reduction. They wanted us to do the selective reduction, wanted us to go talk to somebody at Abbott Northwestern to reduce it to 2 or 3 to increase the chances of a viable pregnancy. And we agreed to go down to Abbott Northwestern, and I just decided we would go talk to them, and I would just have a discussion with Doug once we were not in the presence of the doctor. But made the appointment, walked out of the building, and I told Doug, I said I want to go talk to somebody who's delivered quadruplets, but I said, I'm not going to reduce this, and we can do this. And I just said, as we walked out of there, I said, I can do this, we can do this won't beat us, and we'll be okay. And so we went down to Abbott and talked to the doctor, and she said, so you're here for a reduction? I said, nope. I just want to talk to somebody who's done this. And we talked and kind of learned what some of the chances were and what we were in for, and this wasn't going to be easy. And came back home and realized we don't have a doctor. And so then the hunt became, because I was naive and I thought my fertility doctor was going to take me through the pregnancy. Nobody, I was only 24 years old. Nobody told me that my fertility doctor wasn't going to then take care of me through the pregnancy. So the search then turned to, I gotta find a doctor, and I gotta find one fast because I don't have a lot of time with this. So I started calling every OB in the phone book who had delivered, and asked, the first thing I asked, has Dr. So-and-so delivered twins or triplets? And if the answer was yes, I started making appointments to go talk to that OB and to meet with that OB because I didn't have one. And you were second. The first one that I met with was at Merit Care. Did not particularly care, and I don't even know the doctor, but
When we walked out of your office, he's going to be my doctor.
yeah,
See you right away.
we did. We went in there, and I just, there was just something that clicked when we were talking to you, about, you were honest with us about kind of like, okay, well, we can't do this like we can every other pregnancy, we're just gonna have to play this by ear and do it, and I felt comfortable with you immediately, I trusted you immediately, and in the parking lot, as we walked out, I told Doug, I said, okay, he's my doctor, we're not gonna go see anybody else, and that's where we made the decision.
We didn't talk about reduction.
We did not, because I was never gonna do it, no, and I was kind of irritated right from the beginning when they brought it up at the fertility clinic about it, because I thought that's what we were trying to, this is what we were trying to do. I'm not gonna go ahead and undo what we've spent all this time trying to do, so.
Well, there was more to it than that. How do you make that decision? How do you make that choice? We talked about it, but this is what we were dealt, and we were gonna make it work.
Yeah, we were gonna take our chances. I mean, it's, this is what we were supposed to have. This is, and we were gonna do what we could do and do the best that we could do and stick with each other. And
So how far did you get in pregnancy? You said 25 weeks?
25 weeks and 2 days.
Okay. How much time did you spend in the hospital?
I went in a week and a half before the kids were born. I was put on restricted activity the 19th of December. They were born the 13th of January. But about a week I spent about a little over a week in the hospital before they were born, because I was no longer able to digest food, and the day after they were born was the day that I was scheduled to have that. I was supposed to have that feeding tube put in my neck, because I wasn't able to swallow food anymore because of where Matt was sitting.
You were in for almost a week, and then they let you go home.
Well, and then I had been back, and then went back in.
I think you were back in by the end of that day, weren't you?
The next day.
Was it the
You
next
came
day?
home from work and I was laying on the couch and I couldn't even get up. I just kind of like waved my arm in the air and I just said, I gotta go back. So.
Well, I can remember the night I got the phone call. It was about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it was cold, January 1998. And the nurse called me from Merit Care and said, she has a backache, what can I give her? So I said, you really need to check her cervix. So I got a panic call about 10 minutes later. She's complete. What happened then?
Everybody panicked, and it went into mass chaos in the room, and they, I remember the nurses were in there and they said, well, if Dr. LIndemann isn't gonna get here in time, we'll have the OB on call deliver the kids. And I think there was some 4-letter words that came out in what I said, but I said that, I said, no, he'll get here. I said, Dr. LIndemann, nobody's delivering these kids but Dr. LIndemann. And I said, he will get here, call him right now, he'll be here. And they started the magnesium, is it magnesium sulfate?
Yes, it is, yep.
And I remember them, just like in a movie, squeezing the IV bag.
And try to get in faster, yes.
And I remember, I mean, again, I was 24, and you know, you're just kind of laying there going like, what's going on, what's happening, you know?
Scared.
I was scared to death, you know, I mean, and I knew I didn't make it far enough. We had a goal date of February 16th, my dad's birthday. And that was the goal date, because that was, I wanna say, the 32-week mark. And that's what we were shooting for. And I just remember the panic, like, I'm not there, and then, you know, all the questions, then they put the monitor back on.
Could you tell me about why they took it off?
So,
Oh, yeah.
the day before, they'd taken my double monitor off of me, and they said they had a high-risk twin pregnancy, and so they were taking the double monitor off of me, and they gave me the single monitor. And I remember thinking to myself, well, can't the twin mom have the single monitor and the quad mom have the twin monitor, because that leaves the ratios where they should be. And so then I didn't have a monitor on for the majority of that day that the kids were born. And so they did come in and check me earlier that day, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. We went back down to ultrasound that morning, because we thought we had lost a heartbeat, and they did an ultrasound, find the 4th heartbeat, so everything was okay. But there was a lot of in and out that day as far as where I was at, but I didn't have the monitoring on. So when everything broke loose and everything kind of went nuts and they put the monitor on, I was apparently having contractions about every 30 seconds, and they kept asking me, "Are you feeling that? Are you feeling that?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, I'm just laying there." Like, I was uncomfortable, my back hurt, and I was feeling pressure, but of course I didn't know what that was because I'd not ever done this before, but I wasn't feeling the contractions. You could watch it on the monitor, but I just wasn't feeling it because I was, of course, big as a house.
We had a conversation a few weeks ago, and you said something that really hit home. You said they took the monitor off because of the high-risk twins, and you said, well, who could be higher risk than quads?
Who's higher risk than me?
And that's
yeah.
absolutely right. The other thing that I found fascinating was you had your entire labor without anybody knowing it.
Yes.
Which is really kind of scary.
Yeah, there wasn't anybody that
She was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone, passed it off as, is that she was just uncomfortable because she was so big. And I remember we were having a little bit of a heated discussion that evening, and I was going to leave to go to work, and I had stepped out for a few minutes for something and came back in, and this was all starting. Oh, I'd stepped out because they were going to check your cervix.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And or maybe I don't know. Anyway, everything changed from that point on. I didn't know what to do. What am I gonna do?
Right.
I stood. I was standing there. I called.
You started calling everybody.
I started making phone calls, and no one understood what I was getting at
Well,
because
he's
no
like-
one expected it to be happening.
Right.
He would call everybody and he would say they're coming. Everybody's like, well, who's coming?
I'd say the kids are coming, and they were, whose kids?
Yeah,
So
'cause
there was a lot of confusion
it was a lot of confusion that night.
on everybody's part.
Well, I think everything went nicely. The C-section was easily enough done.
Well, and once you got there, then everything kind of calmed down. But I mean, in all honesty, I went into a panic the minute they said, if Dr. Lindemann doesn't get here, somebody else will deliver the kids. That was about all it took to send me into a panic that night because, again, I was 24 years old, and I had grown extremely close to you during my pregnancy because of the weekly doctor visits, and we just counted heartbeats every week. That's
Right.
what we did together. We counted heartbeats. Okay, we still have 4, and then I could go to McDonald's and have my reward of my little small fountain Coke because I wasn't drinking pop while I was pregnant, and that was my reward for the day. I still had 4 heartbeats, and we would call our friends and we would be like, okay, we're good for the week. And we would. It was, I could go in there and we had a relationship where it was. We just did things on how I felt and what my body was doing, and like when we tried to run the gestational diabetes and I tried to not eat to do the stuff and I was like half dead, and you were like, okay, we're just gonna scratch that because you can't do it. And so then all of a sudden when there was the thought of another doctor coming in, I did literally go into a panic, and I probably made it harder on that staff at the hospital.
Your adjustment, I'm sure you have guidelines, that you go by as, the doctor for pregnancies, but you always, always told her to do what she thought was best for her, and that was a level of comfort for her, so that was very important. And just she would worry herself sick, which wasn't good. So after after the visit, there was always a sense of relief, and that was a big part. That played a big part in her pregnancy because she she had to be able to relax, and if she didn't, it just you're being there and her and comforting her and reassuring her was a big part of the pregnancy.
Well, thank you for that. In a minute, I want to talk about prenatal care, because that's something, I went to a conference at Mayo a few years ago, and there was this specialist obstetrician from Mayo who said, if we do less prenatal care, we'll save a lot of money and we'll still have the same results. And I'm thinking, the only way that would work is if the prenatal care were not very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And what you're talking about does make sense. That is comfort and trust.
Yeah.
One of the things that is so important is, I know if I want to know you well enough so that when you tell me something, I know what you're telling me.
Right.
You know, like my back aches, or, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to hear from the four of you.
I'm
Please.
hiding, I guess.
You want to shut the door?
Sure. Oh, because of the.
That'd be a good idea, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot she was out there talking.
Yeah.
You couldn't hear her?
They can edit that out.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
But still.
we'll be good.
Okay. So,
What do you wanna hear from
what do you want to hear from them?
Well, how much did you weigh? Do you know how long you were when you were born?
No, you were.
I don't know.
Mom knows.
That big.
We only know the width.
You were all 10 and a half or 11 inches long.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And so how much did you weigh when you were born?
1 pound, 13 ounces.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Our birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 113.
113.
I never thought about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
What questions are you tired of being asked?
Are you twins?
Okay,
Specifically to me and her,
Yeah.
I'll respond either like no or kind of.
Then we go into.
And
oh,
then
that's
everyone's
more-
like, what do you mean? And we're like, well, actually we're quads. And then everyone's like, what? But yeah.
so how is it with birthdays and Christmas and all kinds of celebrations and being apart?
Being apart?
Being like separated?
Yes.
Yeah. Bad.
Hard. Very hard.
Well, we didn't like it when we were younger, but now that we're older,
We've kinda,
accustomed.
yeah, we were like, well, eventually it's going to happen, so we might as well get used to it.
So are you getting used to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do.
What happened when you were sick? I mean, somebody must have had ear infections or sore throats or coughs or pneumonia or colds.
If it was one of us three that was sick, and if he wasn't sick, he would take care of us.
Okay.
Yeah. Very good caretaker.
If he was the one sick, we kinda just let him be.
Well, you know, it's hard enough to have one child with an earache. So what do you do when you have 4 children with an earache?
They, well, I mean, we did get lucky and we didn't have a lot of like ear infections at the same time, but we did have flus all hit the house at the same time, and that was ridiculous. In fact, we had one time where Samantha ended up in pediatric ICU for dehydration from a flu that had hit the house, and poor Doug got stuck at home with the other 3 sick, and I think you were just getting over it as well, and I was up in ICU with Samantha
Yeah.
because she was
Sure.
sick. But at the time, she was so tiny. Samantha did not really grow at the rate everybody else did. She only weighed about 7 pounds when it hit her, and so it doesn't take long at 7 pounds for the organs to start to
Yep.
shut down from dehydration. So they put her in ICU for a couple of days for that. But Matt's always been the caretaker of the group when it comes to somebody being sick or having had surgery or anything like that. He's the caretaker. That's the role that he has. So.
So now your caretaker is gone.
Yep. Yeah,
They're just now experiencing what it's like to be separated, so they're learning, you know, that all now, because they've always been together.
Did you leave the NICU all about the same time?
Matt and Samantha,
Left in
We left
April.
on the same day, Andy left the next.
yeah, Matt and Samantha came home one day, Andy came home the very next day. But they were home for 4 weeks before Ashley came home. The week that those three came home was the week that Ashley was downgraded from grave condition to stable. They left her in grave condition the entire time, and that was the first week of April.
Yep.
They came home April 3rd and 4th. She didn't come home till May 5th. She had been slated to come home one time prior to that, and I don't know if you remember, we had the news there and everybody, and because the last quadruplet was coming home, and she coded in the lobby
Oh, yeah.
of the hospital, and Doug went to get the van to load her in, and she coded, and they called it code blue, and they were doing CPR all the way back up to the NICU because she hadn't left the hospital, so they put her back in the NICU, not PEDS-U, but she had passed the car seat test in the NICU, but she didn't make it out of the hospital, so that bought her another couple of weeks in before they let her come home after that.
So how, approximately what weights were you when you left the hospital?
They all sat at about 4.5 to 5 pounds when they came home. 4.5 was the minimum that they would let them come home at.
So you were about, what, 37 or 38 weeks when you went home?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause the due
originally
date
it
was
my birthday originally.
April
the
24th. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
There were a few weeks shy of that.
Yeah, so still little, but
Yep.
got them home.
I don't know, on the monitors were bigger than them almost.
Yeah, they all came home they were still on monitors, they were still on caffeine, they were still on a bunch of stuff when they came home, but,
So you had a lot of work to do when you went home.
oh yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy those first few weeks till we
months.
adjusted to them coming home. The worst part about it was though, is once those three came home, it was so hard to get up to the hospital to see this one,
Yeah.
because you had the three at home and you still had the one up there, and it's hard to break away from 3 high maintenance infants to get back up to the hospital to see the one,
Yeah.
but so the days of spending all your spare time with them in the NICU ended, but we got up there.
Well, it's nice to be here, and I think that a lot of people will like to hear your story, if you will let us
Oh, yeah.
tell it.
Yeah.
And appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
I think you really hit home some important points, and one of them is prenatal care
Mhm.
and getting to know who you are. You get to know me, you get to know me,
Right.
I get to know you, I get to know you.
Right.
And that's really important. And if there's such a thing as magic in OB, that is it.
Mhm.
It is getting to know you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we don't have anymore. We have the doc on deck who will do the delivery if you come in.
Yep.
And then you've got a rotating team that comes by that you
Yep.
see
Yep.
once a month, and it might be a nurse practitioner, it might be one of the OB doctors, but you never really know for sure. My daughter delivered a couple of years ago, well, I guess about 6 now, and she had 3 different doctors in a day and a half.
Oh my.
So things are different.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do it as a team rather as individually.
Well, it works out nicely for the doctors because they get to go home at night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got a good night's sleep that night after you delivered.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, but like I said, once you got there, then I calmed down, and I was probably nicer to the staff. It was a
Well,
little,
you didn't have time to.
I was scared,
Yeah.
and I just needed to make sure that everybody, my mom was there with me, and Doug was there with me, and then we started calling. We had a list of people, like, the other set of parents, you know, his parents in North Dakota, and we had some friends that needed to be called. He had a list of people to call, and they all got notified, and the ones that we wanted up there were there, and so I knew that we ended up that night surrounded by the people that we needed there. But it was a scary night. I mean, you know, because none of them were breathing, and it's a rough night.
Yeah.
So,
Well, like I said, it looks like everything has turned out quite nicely. Now,
We did.
You're
We
all
did.
21 now?
Yep.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. So
We got very lucky,
yeah.
we did,
and we know it.
and we know it.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't ever expect to buy a winning lottery ticket because
You've
Yeah,
already
we got
we've
ours
already spent
21
it.
years ago, you know, but we did. I mean,
You know,
they,
we met many a parents in that NICU that only had one child.
Yeah.
And
and they were
children
born.
that were, kids that were much worse than they were, health-wise. And, to have, you know, all four of them, you know, they had their issues. But we were definitely lucky, we know that.
I think some of this might be actually due to the fact that there are four of you. In other words, you all had probably some, I'm not gonna say stress, but you got ready sooner than if you had been one. In other
Yeah.
words, before you came out, you were really getting ready to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to really look into the future, because we knew what was ahead for us, and so yeah, you're right, we did.
Well-
We had to make we had to make preparations, a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, one thing we did miss out on though is the, I don't remember the name of that drug that, does it start with a C? The drug that,
Celestone.
yeah, that matures the lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody thought I was gonna go, so we didn't get that. And I remember the first time I got up to the NICU that morning, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning before I got up there to see him. The staff, the nurses, I remember going to Ashley's bedside first, and they said something about it, and I said no, I didn't have it, and they were shocked, and I'm like, I wasn't supposed to be, I wasn't in here to have the babies yet. I was in here because I couldn't eat.
Yep.
And so, you know, they're kind of, we missed the boat on that, and they did take a hit on their lungs. The lungs was something that they did take a hit on, but and really the only one who really took a hit on it was Ashley. Ashley, the bottom third of her lungs are it's dead tissue. It never did regenerate, so, but she's okay. She's just not gonna run a marathon,
All the issues.
so, but, yeah, so.
Well, thank you for letting us come and
No
see
problem.
you. And
Yeah.
thank you for all the nice cards and pictures.
What do they say? Give
Oh.
them a chance to.
Okay, all right.
Do you want them to introduce themselves, their names, or?
Yeah, so you guys,
This is Ashley. This is Samantha, Matthew, Andrew.
so
They're in birth order. 1 minute, how many minutes apart?
1 minute apart.
1 minute
Yeah.
apart.
103, 104, 105, and 106.
And what were the weights?
113.
That was the smallest at 1 pound, 9 ounces. I think they were
I
the
don't
same.
know.
110.
Thanks, Matt. We need it.
I don't remember.
Matt was 110.
Sure.
I don't know either, Mom. 109.5.
Wow.
9.5.
It's amazing how close you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they, like I said earlier, they were the size of my hand. Their foot was the size of my thumbnail. She put,
We put this ring, which was my grandfather's
Around
wedding
her
ring,
arm.
but we have pictures where we put it up their arm and let it sit up here at their shoulder just to kind of, because right after they were born, there was a restriction put on the NICU for RSV. And unless you were a parent
Yep.
or a physician, you could not get in. We broke a couple of rules. We got some godparents in after hours when people weren't around. They let us do that. And I think they let us do it a couple of times because I don't know that everybody expected them to survive.
Right.
And I think they let us do it because there was a good chance that, otherwise people weren't gonna see them. But yeah, so I mean, there was, their ears, the cartilage wasn't developed yet, so the ear was just kind of still a flap, but I mean, you couldn't touch them much because
No.
the skin would just tear, and it was startling. I remember in there because they're covered with saran wrap, like the plastic, and at first I was like, well, they're gonna suffocate, and then I was reminded that they were on a ventilator, and it didn't matter, but yeah, so that was their weight, so what else do you guys wanna say?
You want more feelings of how they interact with each other? Is that what you're?
Yes,
What?
and if there's something they feel like the birthday question, the opposite of the birthday question. Something
What
they
would
wish
you
people
wish
knew.
that people did?
And what it's like, I mean, people wonder about,
Well, a lot of people are like, why, like, at work, we always get the question, why are you so close? And, like, everyone just finds it weird that, like, we enjoy being together and not, like, we don't enjoy being apart. And people are like, that's just weird.
It's just multiples have a unique, deep connection.
That they really don't quite
Bond.
understand.
Kinda crazy.
It's hard to explain, but it,
Well, you share something that they don't.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what they don't understand.
Like we have a couple of friends that are twins, and some of them get along, some are very close, and like those friends understand our bond versus our friends who are just single themselves, and
Yeah.
it's just how it is.
Yeah, but,
They all have very different personalities. But they're all, I don't know how to, but in the same sense, they share everything. What we have experienced is that we don't see what other people see. Because we see it every day, it's the normal for us. So when something like yesterday when Matthew came home, had been away since March or whenever it was.
yeah.
There was a level of excitement with the girls to see him, that friends that they know or people, coworkers, they don't understand because they just experience things that most people don't, and those people will never experience what they have. But like I said, it's the normal for us. We get a lot of questions about that exactly. People ask us, did you ever wish you'd had one, or that you had them individually? And no. Simply because we never, we had talked about it, how maybe different our life would have been if they'd each been individual, but a lot of, in the beginning it was a lot of work, it was tough and it was stressful, and but now it's so much easier. We're all, the one thing that we experience that most parents don't get to experience is that when you're done with a phase, you're done. where a lot of parents have to experience. They go through it, diapers,
Yeah.
3 times, they might deal with 6 years of diapers. We dealt with it for just, a couple.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of diapers.
We did.
Have a lot of
We did. I had figured that out at one time, and I don't remember what it was, but I know it was something like, it was 7,000 diapers a month or something like that.
Yeah.
But they've also never been the type of kids, like not once did anybody ever say, can I have my own
Right.
birthday party, or, and we did eventually, there was some times that Matt had an individual thing for the guys, separated from the girls, and that wasn't even
It was all the same.
most times. I mean, they kind of had the same group of friends, but there was never even like any resentment between, nobody was ever mad that it was one big giant birthday party. But we did, when they were younger, they each had their own cake, even though it was one party, There was a Mickey Mouse cake, a Scooby cake, a Barbie cake, a Dora cake, but whatever, Clifford cake, whatever the favorite thing was at the time, like they each had their own cake and that type of thing, but they never really seemed to resent anything
Never.
like that, and
I don't think they ever did.
No.
They never seemed to show it.
oh. So, I mean, it's I don't know, it's just kind of always been their norm. I don't think they ever expected it to be any different.
We don't know any different.
Right. Yeah. So.
Did you say this was your last cycle?
Yes.
Of the fertility drugs, yeah, we had decided that
If it didn't work, we were done.
we were done,
For-
at least for quite some
Right.
time, because we had tapped out financially everything that we could. And I think emotionally, we were gonna
Emotionally,
need a
it was-
break. We were,
It would have stressed her out. She would have still been stressed out because of it if it hadn't succeeded.
How many cycles did you have before this?
well, we did 6 inseminations.
I don't remember.
We did 6 months of the injection drugs with the inseminations, and before that, we had done
I remember
about a
giving her
year
shots.
of the pill drugs, and so, but at the time, insurance did not cover those injection drugs.
Yep.
And Fertnex was new at the time, and it was not cheap, but I didn't wanna take Pertinol because of how it's harvested, so I opted for Fertnex, and it works.
Obviously. Was this your first Fertnex cycle?
No, it's
No.
my
The
6th.
sixth one?
Yeah, yeah. it
You
was the
didn't
6th.
try anything else?
No.
Except for the Clomid?
Right, yeah. And we had a lot of early miscarriages on Clomid,
Yeah.
so that was something that I probably would have never opted to go back to, because they estimated there was about 13 of them, so,
Wow,
it was just something that just wasn't,
that's a lot of miscarriages.
it was rough.
Yeah.
It was really rough, so, yeah, but, it was, and that's what helped, going back to with you. If, people have asked me a lot, like, just, the delivery of the 4 kids and things like that, what helped so much in getting in the prenatal care and that type of thing, leading up to it, is you were always honest with me, but in a way that was not brutal. It was not, but I knew, we had talked, I knew I was not ever
You were honest
leaving that
with her.
hospital with a baby.
Yeah.
I knew you were never handing me a baby. I wasn't under any illusions as to how this was gonna go that night. So I think that's why once you got there and we got into that delivery room, that I had kind of calmed down, because then I knew what was gonna expect, because we had talked about so much how it was gonna go. You had laid it out, like, this is how we're gonna do this is how it's gonna go. But at that point, then I was back to where I was okay, because then I knew this is what's gonna happen, because this is, we had talked about this is, and then I knew what to expect, but.
That is, communication is so important, and, one of the things I really always try to do is get dads involved.
Mhm.
And so, there are the 2 of you, well, actually the 6 of you,
I remember you telling me, that you were very happy that I was always there with.
It's important, dads are very useful in labor and delivery.
I
And
wasn't that night.
postpartum.
Held her hand.
I'll bet you changed some diapers at home.
Oh, yes, yeah. He was very hands-on.
Yeah.
He was very hands-on, and he was very supportive, and, you know, that night in the delivery room, he just sat there and held my hand and cried with me, and would just, you know, I just.
Kept my focus on her.
Right. I did kept telling him, why don't you look over the
Nope,
sheet?
I'm not gonna look.
But one thing that was really funny is because, you know, the whole pregnancy, we thought it was 2 boys and 2 girls.
Yep.
So we had the names for 2 boys and 2 girls, and then all of a sudden you said, there's girl number 3, and I went like,
What?
oh no, there is 5.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Because I went, and luckily that wasn't the case, but, so then they didn't get named right away because we all of a sudden had to try to figure out what the other name is gonna be, because we were off one, but, so yeah, but it worked. Andrea's name got changed, but
Yep.
just went from Andrew to Andrea,
There we go.
so, in the newspapers, they stayed A, B, C, and D for the first 2 days,
Yeah.
till we got it figured out, so. Worked out pretty good.
Yes,
So.
it did work out nicely.
Yep,
So congratulations.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else you wanna?
I can't think of anything. I mean, I could digress, but we don't really need to do that.
What about you, Diana? Is there anything we're missing?
No, I just wanted you all to have a chance to tell your stories. If you
You guys are being
had
much more
something
quiet.
you wanted to say.
We're not used to this.
Either way, well, I guess we're a little more than you are.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel like it, that's fine, but if you've got something to say, you know, we'd love to hear it.
I mean, to be honest, I'm probably only gonna be the one that talks out of us 4.
You are kind of the spokesperson.
So you do all have your roles. You're the caretaker, you're the spokesperson.
They all pretty much take care of each other.
Yeah.
When littler, he would, more than what you would expect him to. But, and that, I don't think he really did any more than the rest of them did. It was just him being the boy, it wasn't as expected.
Well, no, like it was different with him. Like when Ashley had to have a wrist surgery one time, and nothing against the other 2, but you know, when we called the house, I called the house to let them know that the surgery was over. We were leaving the hospital and that type of thing, and they were like, you know, I think I was talking to
Me, maybe?
Sam, and then I was like, Ashley wants to talk to Matt. So she gets on the phone with Matt, and
I don't think I was home.
you were, and then by the time we got home,
But I don't recall.
Matt had pulled out an air mattress into a spare room off of the living room and brought her pillows and her blankets down, got everything set up, and he had arranged this whole little room for her so that he could sit there and he could keep an eye on her and take care of her so she didn't move her arms, so that I could take a nap. And he sat there next to her and watched her sleep for the next couple of hours. And when Sam had a very nasty oral surgery one time and did not do well with the anesthesia, like when we brought her home, he was right outside there to carry her in, and he spent, you know, the next 2 days, you know, doting over her. And when I had my hysterectomy, he was my caretaker. And he is different, and it's nothing against you 3 girls, but you 3 girls
Yeah,
have
he takes
never
care of his
been
mom.
the one to take care of. Yeah, he does take care of his mom. But the 3 girls have never been to that extent. Like that's just simply Matt. That's just what Matt's always been, and he probably always will be. It's just in his core what he does, you know. So, but they all have, you know. Andy's the happy, carefree one. Doesn't matter how bad the situation is. Andy's gonna make everybody smile and laugh and relax, and
She's good at it too.
Sam's gonna keep everybody in line. She's gonna make sure everybody does what they're supposed to do and doesn't get themselves into trouble. And then, you know, Ashley is gonna,
If you
Ashley's,
get picked on,
well,
I kind of take care of it.
yeah, Ashley's gonna make sure, she's the coordinator, she's
Yeah.
she's gonna,
She's the well,
Yeah,
no, it's
she's
not
the
really,
one kind of
Sam's
in
the
charge.
organized one, but
We're both are. But she,
yeah, she's more.
how old's your grandparents?
which ones?
All of them?
Your parents are, what, 75, 76? And your parents are
She's the keeper of the
She's the date
information.
keeper.
She's the keeper of the information in the family.
Yeah.
So, but, and then they've always kind of paired off a little bit, even though they're all very close. Samantha and Andrea have always been very tight, and Matt and Ashley have always
We've gone
been,
through our
because they,
phases of
Yeah.
they
tightness. Like,
compete.
him and I were like this when we were younger. And then it was her and I when we went to college. And then
Wow.
she was away
We don't like you
at
either.
Disney. Her and I got really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
But Matt and Ashley were the athletic ones, so they were the always ones that competed against each other.
So you said college,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
did you all go to the same,
No,
No,
her and I went to the same college.
Yeah, so we
These
both,
guys haven't done anything.
yeah, and I'm going back in 2 weeks.
So, yeah, they're Winona State students in education. Sam's taking a break because she's changing her mind, I think. And Matt is working in North Dakota with my brother, and Andy is probably leaning towards cosmetology at this time.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be here for these things, dude.
so you're gonna put on permanent makeup?
No, not permanent, but, well, yeah, makeup.
Yeah, she likes her,
She loves makeup.
like makeup and
Hair.
hair stuff. And
Yeah, it's kind of her thing,
Spends a lot of money on it.
so. But yeah, so they're, they take care of each other. They always joked at the high school how they always walked in and out of the building together. It didn't matter
Yeah,
what their friends were doing or whatever, they walked in together, they walked
What
out
were we
together.
called?
quad
The
squad.
quad
Quad
squad.
and also a couple teachers called us like hoodlums or
Yeah.
something, because we were always walking
In a line.
Like,
Yeah, we
we
walked
take up
down
the
the
width of the
hall.
We
hallway.
did.
oh,
I think someone was calling us, I think they said like we were our own little gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was
Which we
totally
were.
what meant, yeah.
How we make a good game.
Yeah, so. Yeah, they're an interesting group, that's for sure, so. That's that,
Well, thank you again,
no problem.
and I really have enjoyed all the cards and letters, and actually have a picture, the last picture you sent is still in my office.
That's their senior photo, that's probably the one with the water in the background.
It is the water,
Yeah, that's-
the water, the blue
Yeah, that's her
background.
favorite one.
I've always wondered whether that was real water or
It
whether.
is, the park is right a
Actually,
block and a half behind us, that's Riverside Park where we took all those senior
They're
photos, is right
beautiful.
back there. Yeah, so, yeah, that's their senior photo, that was the last one. We haven't taken a group photo
No, we
since then.
I mean, we took one yesterday.
But,
did you?
Yeah.
so, but I don't know, is there anything else you wanna?
No, I can't think of anything. Like I said, I could digress, but that will just subtract from what you have to say, and I don't wanna do that.
Well,
So,
I
thank
mean.
you.
No, I just wanted to make sure, you got whatever you needed, or,
This is very good. I think
Okay.
that there's going to be a lot of people who will be seeing what we're doing here today.
well, and I hope, I don't know exactly what you're trying to, but I hope that it helps, because I've told Doug many times, I was very fortunate to end up with you, because and it might seem like small, stupid things to the rest of the world, but like, for example, something as minor as like, a prenatal vitamin. Like, I was already taking a multivitamin, and instead of putting me on one that was probably gonna make me sick, I just brought the bottle in and you looked at it and it had what I needed. So since it wasn't making me get sick every morning, you just let me take that. Or, I remember times where you said, well, you know, other doctors would probably put you in the hospital now, but that's for sick people, and I can't risk you getting sick, so we're just gonna keep you at home. And, you know, you let me do what my body said I could do until I had to, you know, slow it down or take it easy and that type of thing. And, I don't know, I think I made it as long as I did because of how we did it, you know. And I wanted you to know that, because I mean, it really mattered a lot to me, so.
One of the things that's so important with prenatal care is the point you brought up, is comfort.
Mhm.
That is
Yeah.
so important. I think that sets the stage for the rest of your lives.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you go home that way, and
Right.
you manage that way.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
I agree.
and knowing that your physician cares. Like, I remember one of my first visits with you after the kids were born, and I joke about how I was going through withdrawals, because I was used to seeing you at minimum every week. And I think there was a couple weeks where we were in there a couple times a week, and then all of a sudden, like, I have the kids, and I don't need to count
Right.
heartbeats every week, and what do? I'm not seeing Dr. Lindemann every week. But I remember one time going in, and we had moved into the larger 3-bedroom apartment, and we had it set up for the kids, and you were very interested in how that apartment was set up and how we were getting ready for the kids. And I remember we sat down and we kind of drew a diagram of the apartment and where we were having the cribs and how we were gonna do this. And that is just another thing that's always stuck with me, because not many doctors really would have cared, you know. But it was a ways out before the kids came home, but you were still interested. You cared about how we were gonna do that when we got them home. And I just, you know, that's not your job. You don't have to care about that, but you did, you know, and will always stick with me.
That was the fun part of it.
Yeah.
And the magic. And the
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. It was,
You know, when this all happened, it was kind of during that, I guess craze probably isn't the right word, but there were so many multiple births at that time.
yeah, because
There was another family up in Grand Forks that delivered quadruplets a week or two after these.
no, they're a couple months younger
This
than
was a
these
couple
guys.
months?
Yeah.
And then the sextuplets.
The McCoy
the
sextuplets,
McCoys.
yeah, that was a national one.
So it's really funny, strange, I don't know, you don't hear about it anymore.
Well, I think the world's gotten used to it.
You know, was it just people lost interest, or, you know, so it's,
I think there's been a lot of pressure against it.
yeah,
And I think
Yeah.
there may be
Yeah.
a big concern about putting in 8 embryos or 6 embryos.
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
is it the right
Well,
thing to do?
and in the eyes of the fertility clinic, this was a mistake.
Yep.
I mean, they monitor better than this, is how they look at it, and I get that, I get that, but we made a decision, and this is the way it's gonna be, and I understand the human body is not made to carry a litter, and we agreed to that when we tried to do it, and I would always tell everybody, it's not something that you should probably put your body through. I mean, I didn't necessarily fare real well in it, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that come into place and that type of thing, so I can't mute that thing. I don't know who's calling my office today.
Pick it up and hang up.
That's the only thing you can do. But,
I'll
you
call
do
back
it, it's
then.
okay. Yeah, I can't shut the ringer off on that one. I don't know who's calling me today, but yeah, so it's, yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I wouldn't tell anybody to, you know, if you can carry quadruplets, it's a great idea, your body will do well, do it. No, but but at the same time, I mean, I would also not do it any other way than I did it, so.
Yeah, well, like I said, you did a good job.
Thanks, so did you.
Yeah, so you all did a good job.
So, cool.
Anything else?
I can't think of anything else, you know.
Okay, no, thank you. 20 years, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll be 91.
Yep.
I'm not gonna take the same route. We got the GPS routed us at 694 down through St. Paul, past Ramsey, and then,
35.
yeah, to 52. I mean, that's the way we caught 52. But I think it would have probably made more sense to go 494.
If traffic isn't too bad, that is the best way to go, but
Yep.
it is the quickest.
You
Yeah.
know, he's a professional truck driver.
Oh, yeah.
I've been on those roads many times.
Well, that would be tough. That'd be a tough way to make a living sometimes.
Well, he's not over the road though. He
Not
hasn't been
anymore.
over the road for years.
Okay.
So.
Only did it for
2, 3.
2 years, but not consecutively.
Yeah, he just drives locally now.
Yeah.
So.
So you can get home at night.
Well,
Well, no.
during the day,
He's been driving overnights for the
Oh.
last 8 years, but he actually starts a daytime job on Tuesday. He's switching jobs right now, so.
I was driving for FedEx. I'd go up to St. Paul and back every night.
I followed a FedEx truck last night, or yesterday. I think it was going about 78 miles an hour. So I'm thinking, how can you do that with FedEx? Don't you get picked up? And,
FedEx is 65, so
Yeah.
it must have been,
Must have,
yeah, they must not have had the governor
no,
on.
must not had a governor on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was good to be behind it.